Welcome to another episode of Solitaryism, and I'm Robert Bitto, your host. The title of today's show is, Why Are Solitary People Vilified? Ooh, that sounds pretty ominous. So, why are solitary people looked down upon by the rest of society? Why is it seen as an undesirable state? And why is the character of the weird loner, or in internet terms, the incel, promoted by the mainstream society, by the media, by the news, etc.? Well, not to get too conspiratorial, and I know that sounds like a cliche, but they don't want you to be alone and examining your thoughts and living a solitary existence, or even engaging in solitaryism for brief periods of time. They don't want that. Because there's a secret here, okay? People who are alone are not necessarily miserable. Now, sure, there are a lot of people out there, we hear of the loneliness epidemic. There are a lot of people out there who feel miserable for being alone. And that, again, is brought on by societal expectations of a person. You're not supposed to be alone, and the feelings of loneliness come from your expectations not being met. And where do those expectations come from? They come from outside of you. Now, those expectations and the whole idea of the evil or loser loner, they come from the same place. They don't come from inside you, they come from outside you. They're being promoted, so to speak. And the simplest explanation is that the people who are in charge of society want you in a group. They want you in a group so that you can be easily controlled and managed. Okay? If you're on your own and you're not dependent on things emotionally or physically, then you're harder to control. And if you go deep into solitude, what I advocate on this channel called Solitaryism, if you go deep into that, you start discovering things about yourself, and then you discover things about the outside world that were not true. And one of them is that you need people. You may have needed people in centuries past for your survival, but the way that our society is structured now, you really don't need friends or close people proximate to you. And throughout history, there are people who have lived alone, from monks to Thoreau or to other people who just are out on their own and living by themselves. And I've said before, you don't hear anything from these people because they are self-contained and they really don't need anything from anyone. And so why would they be on YouTube making videos or doing a podcast? They don't care, really. They feel like they have nothing to share, and they don't want to share. And that's up to them, and that's good for them. But there are a lot of people out there who are very self-contained alone. And if you're a government, a prince, a ruler, someone who aspires to have power over someone, the person who's a solitary individual who is very self-contained, self-assured, and I dare use the term self-actualized, then they have no need for you. And they're very, very hard to control. So now, if you were in charge and you wanted to demonize a group, what would you do? Well, you'd create the whole idea of a loner. What's a loner? Oh, he was so quiet, but we didn't know much about him. And then he decided to hijack a bus full of school kids, or go to a mall and shoot up the mall. There is a pattern here, okay? And people say, oh, well, these events don't happen in other countries, only in the United States. Well, you can go a couple baby steps away from that and try to figure out what's happening. But core to these events is the loner, okay? And we hear things on the media and in entertainment, which I guess is part of the media, that the loner is dangerous, the loner is weird. And I use the word loner because there's really no other word. The person engaging in solitaryism is weird. The person engaging in solitaryism is sick somehow. But it's the exact opposite in real life. Like I said, you just don't see these people. I'm one of them. You can come up to me and talk to me, and I'm as rational as the other person. But I don't have any friends. And I don't need any friends. I don't have a family of my own. And I don't need a family. And I'll take any psych test you want to give me. And you'll see how quote-unquote normal I am. And there are a lot of us out there who are living our lives and have plenty to do. And we're loving life. And the whole idea of loneliness and being depressed and miserable and being cut off, that never even crosses our minds because our lives are fulfilling. And you can have a fulfilling life too if you're living completely alone. I don't see why you can't. You're told by society that it's impossible, that you need people, man's a social animal, and all that stuff. But there are thousands and thousands and thousands, if not millions of people around the world that prove that wrong. Okay? So if there's even one person who goes against these accepted beliefs that being alone is depressing and sick and pathological, well then it's possible to have a fulfilling life alone. But it's more common than you think, and it's vilified for a reason. They don't want you to go deep inside yourself. They don't want you to spend time alone. If you're in a group, you're easier to corral. It's that simple. That's about all I wanted to say on this topic. I hope you found it interesting and possibly helpful. Until next time, remember to be happy alone.